everyone. My name is Hector Armienta. I'm a composer and also the artistic director of Opera Cultura. And I want to welcome you to Los Revolucionarios, a program devoted to the work of Latinx artists changing the face of opera, both on stage and off stage. So my first guest today is composer Jorge Sósa. Welcome, Jorge. ¿Cómo estás? How are you?
Great. Thank you so much for having me. It's just a pleasure to be here. Thanks for the invitation. I'm just delighted to tell everyone about the work that we do.
No, absolutely. And and I know about your work, and I think you're quite a wonderful artist. So I'm glad to have you here.
Gracias,
All
gracias.
right, so let's start with our first question. Okay, so tell me, how were you first introduced to opera, and what excites you about the art form?
Yeah, so opera is an acquired taste for me. Actually, I didn't grow up with classical music or opera around the household. So it's really until I was in music school that I took myself to see opera for the very first time, and the very first opera I saw was Wozzeck. And it was it was in a quite a a happening in Mexico City because it hadn't been staged in a very long time. So so I went to see it and see what the fuss was all about this work, and I loved it. I just fell in love with it. It just struck me as such a powerful piece, as such a strong commentary, strong social commentary, and the music I found gripping, and it just really kind of blew me away. And so that became sort of my goal, my standard was to try and emulate the theatricality of Wozzeck. We can talk about the music, but really the theatricality of it really is, I think, one of the a great piece of art. And then I went to see other works. I went to see Così fan tutti. I think was the second opera I went to see, and I really didn't like it.
Yeah,
So
well, they're quite different, and Wozzeck is quite a first introduction to opera. Most people would suggest, Carmen or La Traviata, but very interesting. So you were really, but of course the music, but also the storytelling element and the importance for the social commentary, I think, was probably also what drew you to it. And I know a little bit about your work, and I can see how those threads have sort of impacted your work and and things that you were focused on. So those are some of your musical influences. So when you said you were in school, you were at the conservatory. Were you in were you in college already?
Yeah, so I went to a small music school in Mexico City called Centro de Investigación y Estudios de la Música, and it's still there. And I did my undergrad there, and I actually taught for them, for a bit. And then I got a scholarship to study at Manes. So I came to New York, and actually this is my 20th year in the United States. I came in 2002 with a suitcase and a laptop, and then sort of a lifetime later, I'm still here.
Yeah, here you are. Here you are.
Yeah,
Well, it's great to have you part of La Familia of Latinx artists in the United States. So well, I'm glad
gracias.
you're here. Yeah. So and I know, as I said, I mentioned a little bit. I know a little bit of your work. You did some work with the White Snakes Project, right, with Cities Jacobs. You did that piece, which I thought was quite amazing. Both, the not only the technology but also the piece. And so tell me a little bit. Share with everyone sort of how would you describe your work? I mean, if you could sum it up for us, what would that be?
Yeah, I think my entry into professional opera writing, and actually sort of one of the pieces that opened up a lot of doors for me was the use of technology. So I started doing sort of experimenting with electronic music when I was doing my doctorate at University of Missouri, Kansas City, and sort of immediately I started incorporating that into opera and to storytelling. So it was a way for me to create sound design, to create Foley effects, and to integrate all of those elements into the musical fabric. And so that sort of opened up a residency with American Lyric Theater back in 2009. I think I was the second generation of artists to go through that program. and they invited me to do precisely this sort of intersectionality between opera and technology. And then I think the other really important element in my work that has taken precedence, it was already present there, but it has now really flourished into its own sort of into its own path, is you know, a commitment to social justice, to talking about Latinx themes, to talking about topics that are socially conscious, and to leave that work, you know, sort of. I like to say that we're not only storytellers but story keepers. So talking about not only my experience but the experience of so many Latinos in the United States and my family, friends, etc., and try to capture that.
Am I now? What happened along the way? What happened to my dreams of being the first to go to college?
Yeah. And that's what I find with a lot of Latino and Latina artists or Latinx artists is this sort of this understanding of the importance of our role, not only just creating music and music that draws on our cultural influences, but also some of the issues that we're faced, the issues faced in our community. So I really admire, you know, you're one of the people I admire for doing that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, you know, so are there any, you know, thinking about that, are there, you mentioned sound design, are there any specific musical influences that you might draw from? And if you don't, it's totally okay, you know, from Mexico, and as many people know, the music of Mexico is very varied. It's more than, you know, mariachi or so. It's just, you know, beautiful indigenous music and influences and all of that. But would tell me about that.
Sure. I mean, it's interesting. Sort of. I think that Latinx artists, and you know, I'd like to hear your thoughts on this, but we're also expected to sound Latinx,
Mm,
right? So and we're sort of caught in that paradigm, you know, sort of to be or not to be, to sound Latinx or to not sound Latinx, and to really embrace it or to go against it. And for me, I try both. So sometimes my operas are very much rooted in traditional musics, specifically, for instance, the bolero, the canción ranchera, you know, I would play with my dad and with my grandpa in family gatherings with the guitars, and would sing all these Agustin Lara tunes and Maria Grieber, you know, all that body, beautiful body of art song. And you know, and I've been thinking so much about those over the last few years, and about that rep, and how you know, how much it's integrated into my vocal writing. And also la canción ranchera, you know, José Alfredo Jiménez, Cuco Sánchez, Vicente Fernández, you know, all this great body of sort of ballads and storytelling. There's a lot of storytelling in those songs as well. So it's sort of like, in my arias or in arioso moments, I will definitely draw from these sources, specifically to color the identity of the characters, or to whenever we're talking about like home or belonging, or something that has to do with our roots. You know, they sort of bubble up into the surface. mixed with that is, an vast array of musical influences, everything from synth pop to, cumbia, salsa, mambo, chicoche, Perez Prado, and also, Alban Berg and Stravinsky and, modernist music. So, I think I'd like to think that I have a very vast musical culture. I think we all should have a vast musical culture, and I like to to take from all the little bits and pieces that make me as a person. Definitely when I was a teenager, we were not listening to Cuco Sanchez in high school, right? We were listening to rock music or, Latin, rock en español was a big thing, como Botellita de Jerez, Maldita Vecindad, Café Tacuba, all that music is the music of my youth. So all those elements, I think, are a part of my musical palette, and they show up in different ways.
Right. And your training is and tell me if I'm wrong, is rooted in sort of Western European, classical forms. But and sometimes for your, if I get this right, your work is draws on, on musical influences from Mexico or things that you grew up or that you might be aware of, but also it draws on things that have nothing to do with, being Latino, which is really interesting. I think it's good that you have this sort of wide palette that you can, you know, many colors, that musical colors that you can draw from to create your work. That's really, really nice.
Yeah.
Um, uh, what do you think, this is well, tell me before we go on, tell me what new piece are you working on right now?
Well, this is a this is a super interesting time for me. I'm overwhelmed with work in a great way because well, there are so many projects that got derailed with the pandemic, and
Mhm.
they're all sort of starting to shape now. But there are things that I've been working on. Some of these projects from 2017, 2018, and for some reason they've sort of been delayed, and now they're sort of coming to fruition. So right now, the projects that are most urgent, that are gonna sort of be coming down the pipeline, a new production of I Am a Dreamer Who No Longer Dreams, which is my opera with Cerise Jacobs, and this is a new production that is going into that is produced by Resonance Works in Pittsburgh, and that's coming up this fall. And it has a new orchestration and expanded orchestration for a band of 13.
Oh,
Um,
congratulations. That's great. Good to hear.
yeah, it's sort of I'm a Dreamer Who No Longer Dreams is my first fully staged opera, and so it's amazing that it's getting a second production just a few years after the premiere. So I'm just very grateful about that. A lot of Whitesnake projects. We have another opera called Monkey, which is based on a Chinese fable, and that is coming up for 2023. I'm doing a project with University of North Iowa. I'm doing a comedy called The Beehive with librettist Melissa Tien. And that has absolutely, takes place in a hair salon. So that has nothing to do with Latino or
But
Latinx
so
identity.
that's okay. I mean, it's completely okay. And I think, in an ideal world, we're not classifying ourselves as, this kind of artist. Um, but that's really good to hear that you're doing these different kinds of work. So it's been a great joy, Jorge. And so we're going to see. So just so the audience knows, you're going to do. There's a piece by Pittsburgh Opera, and that's going to be when in
It's Resonance Works in Pittsburgh, and it's called I Am a Dreamer Who No Longer Dreams, and that's coming up in October. And
October
then
this
next
year.
October this year, and I think
Okay.
that they'll make the announcement soon. And then Monkey with Whitesnake Projects in 2023, and the Beehive with University of North Iowa also in 2023. So,
You are a busy man.
yes, yes, I'm very
And
grateful.
congratulations.
Thank you,
Well, thank
thank
you
you.
so much. Thank you so much. So
Mil
thank you
gracias,
everybody
Hector.
for joining us with this wonderful conversation with Jorge Sosa. Definitely one of the movers and shakers in the opera world, and it's just wonderful to hear about the work that he's doing and the organizations that are supporting the work of this great artist. So thank you so much.